up, everyone? Justin Archer, the editor over here at the Hoosier Boys channel. I'm going to introduce my buddy Jarod Osborne, who gave us a submission a few days ago. I haven't been able to get it up because Colin posted up a video and I wanted to wait a little bit before I posted one so I wouldn't eat away from his likes, clicks. I hope you like it. He's an author here from Indiana. We're going to put in the description box links where you can find his content, and I hope you all enjoy.
I saw a friend coming up to me a few weeks ago, and something was wrapped around his hand. As he got closer, we'll call him Bill, I said, "Hey Bill, what's going on with your arm and your hand there?" He said, "Oh, I shot myself." "You did what?" He's like, "Yeah, I was sitting at the dinner table the other night," and he pulled out his handgun, which he always carries, always has with him, has for years, and he was disassembling it, pulled the trigger to move it. He forgot to take the bullet out of the chamber. Boom! Right through his hand, right out the other side, right through the wall, 6 inches from his son's body. He almost killed him. That event shook their family and gave him a different perspective about the weapon that he carried. My name is Jarod. I'm a guest contributor today on Hoosier Boys. Justin invited me to share. So I want to talk about something today that I don't talk about very often, but I actually have a little bit of a passion about. It's 4 foundational ideas related to handgun defense. The first idea is get training. Get training. It's worth investing a little money, even if you grew up with guns your whole life. It's worth paying a professional to get a baseline of training. An old statistic, 2017, said Indiana was about the 5th highest state for number of concealed carry licenses, 800,000 people carrying guns. Surely that number has gone up a lot in the last 2 years. And one study said that about 40% of people who carry in the U.S. don't have adequate training. I think it's probably a lot more than that, the number of people that carry a weapon but don't have adequate training. So it's worth the time. Get good professional training. Get training in adrenalized scenarios. Use the stress response while you're doing drills with guns, because that's what your body would be going through if you're actually in a life-saving situation. Number 1 is get training. Number 2 is realize what kind of power guns have. Guns have a kind of power. It's a power to stop a threat. That's why we would have them. But that's a destructive power, not a constructive power. Real power, more meaningful power, is not destructive. That's very limited. It's constructive. It's the kind of power to create life, to promote life, to love other people, to make life full of meaning. That all the reasons that we'd want to protect those we love and protect life are not about the destructive power. They're about the creative power. When I was in high school, I was in a summer camp. And at that point, I looked kind of like a punk rocker. I had a shaved head. I'd wear chains. And there was a guy who came first day, came right over to me and befriended me. He went out of his way to get to know me and to hang out that day. And we really hit it off the whole week. We were good buddies. And later I asked him, "Hey, why did you come over to me? Of all the people there, why did you come over to me?" He said, "Well, it's simple. I know I'm a little different. I'm not athletic, and I've got some little bit of a different look to me. So I picked the person in the room that I thought would like me the least. And I made friends with you before you could make an enemy of me." Wow, that left a lasting impression on me. That's creative power, the power to promote life and not destroy. Third one is this: follow safety rituals. Follow safety rituals. There was a movie that came out a while ago called Equilibrium. And it was kind of Hollywood fun because they did gun katas and had all these routines with their handguns. Unrealistic in terms of defense. But the principle of practicing in terms of safety rituals, memorizing and practicing rigid safety rituals, now that is a concept that's worth following. From the period of 2006 to 2016, there were almost 7,000 accidental shooting deaths in the U.S. Wouldn't you hate to have one of your guns be involved in an incident like that? Safety rituals. Checking the chamber every time. Making sure, double checking the lock every time. First one is get training, adrenalized training. The second one is realizing what kind of power guns have. Third is follow safety, not just routines, but rituals. And the fourth one is this, maybe the most important one. Address the deeper fears. Sometimes it's fear that motivates us to get defensive training. Sometimes it's stories that have scared us from other people that cause us to want to prevent that kind of thing from happening to ourselves. So we address it at the surface level, the self-defensive level, but oftentimes we forget to address the deeper emotional and spiritual level of the actual fear zone. The reality is this: you can't train enough to have peace. You can't trust in yourself enough to know that something's not going to happen. There's always going to be an accident that could happen, or somebody better, or an unforeseen scenario that you didn't train for. You just can't find security through your own ability. That's where having a deeper trust, knowing that God is in control and you can trust Him, brings a real peace. A long time ago, one of Jesus' closest friends, Jesus was an authority on peace. He was an authority on the way the world works, the way relationships work, and creative power. One of Jesus' closest friends named John, after watching Jesus set down his defenses, after watching Jesus sacrifice his life for the people that he loved, for others, John reflected in a letter that he wrote. He said this: "Perfect love drives out fear." Perfect love drives out fear. This seems like an odd combination, because usually when we think of driving out fear, we think of courage, or we think of training, or we think of defense. John, after watching Jesus' life, he said, no, actually the way that inner workings of the human heart actually work is that knowing that God loves us can bring peace. Trusting in His plan for our life, even if good things happen, even if bad things happen, even if things out of our control happen, that's what actually brings lasting peace and security. Perfect love drives out fear. One of the most memorable self-defense seminars that I've taught was with a friend of mine about my age. We'll call her Rose. She was at home one night. Her kids were upstairs sleeping, and her husband was working late at his job. And it was dark. She was just kind of laying on the couch downstairs when a couple teenagers from the neighborhood broke in. They found her there, and they took her into the bathroom and brutally raped her repeatedly for hours in the house. Now, her whole goal was not only to survive the night, it was to keep the house quiet and still enough so that her kids would not wake up upstairs and come down to find the attackers in the house. Hours later, the attackers left, her husband came home, the kids woke up to what seemed like to them a normal morning, but the event had already happened. She asked me a few weeks later, Jarod, would you host a private women's self-defense seminar for me and a couple of my friends? Absolutely, we'll do whatever we can to help. That was just one of those events. Hearing about it and knowing about it, it just keeps you up at night. I was so enraged when I heard about that. I was so ticked. Just kind of, it was devastating to our whole community. So we held this self-defense seminar for her. And it was very emotional on both levels, because for her, this was a sort of breaking free from that emotional hold that had been on top of her for so long. And for us, it was really emotional because as trainers, we were pushing her through all the normal drills that we would do for Women's Self-Defense Seminar, knowing how impactful and how hard this was for her, but we were challenging her because we wanted her to rise up and fight and let that out. And so through some of these drills, there was just an emotional release, and the women would scream as they were hitting back the drills and the pads, and we as trainers would really challenge them, but inside we were crying for them. It's a very moving event. And at the end, I asked her, Rose, how are you recovering so well? You're doing an amazing job. You seem to be coming along, and it hasn't ruined your life. How are you doing it? And she said, well, I've had really good therapy, but another huge thing has been I forgave my attackers. I was so angry at people. I didn't even know who they were. I was enraged. And to hear her say that one of the most freeing things from her, one of the things that helped her have peace again and live on in her life, was that she forgave her attackers. That is the power of love to drive out fear. That addresses stuff that no amount of technical training, no weapon can really bring. Peace and security at the deeper level. Thanks for letting me contribute.